That's the place where there's no death or aging or illness.
Oh,
Right
wow.
now, we're still experiencing that. We're still experiencing life as it's always been on Earth. But when people get behind the work that the Councils of Light are doing, and many of your listeners are doing that either consciously or unconsciously. That's why everybody is here now. This is the happening time on Earth. This is the time when people want to be here because of all the exciting stuff that's going to be in our future. So, the fifth, and you were saying, well, where's the fourth dimension? Where's the third dimension? Guess what? Those are gone. 2009, the third dimension left, and Earth had been a third dimension world since its very beginning, first, second, and third. In 2015, the fourth dimension left. What I mean when I say that it left? It just drifted away, and everything that was in that dimension moved into the fifth dimension. That's the process of ascension, elevation that we're going through right now.
Well,
you got any questions about?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out, okay, if you want to stay looking young and not age or whatever, how do you do it?
Well, you start, if you want to do it more consciously, all right, then one of the things I suggest is you start reading these books, because we're doing transmissions. I didn't step aboard that. It's the Ashtar command ship. Tonos calls it Anishimura, which means the night sky in his language. When I stepped aboard that ship and we started working together, we started sending transmissions to Earth from that ship, from the 10th dimension above Earth. And the time I started writing this first book, there were 86 million Ashtar command ships stationed above Earth. Do you know who the Ashtar Command is, who they are?
No, why don't you explain that to me?
Okay. So they are a consortium of elevated non-dual masters who are guardians of Earth. You talk about the movie The Guardians of the Galaxy. Well, the Ashtar Command are the guardians of all the universes, and especially of Earth, because the Earth and humanity is the youngest race in all of creation, and Earth is the most important world in all of creation. Now that, I know, is maybe mind-boggling to you, right?
Well, why would Earth be, my concern is, why would Earth be the most important?
Okay, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked it.
I'm glad I did too, because I'm trying to figure that part out. I mean, why would us, the way we take care of ourselves in this planet?
So you think about the whole of creation. That's another thing that people get when they read my books. They get a picture. They get the big picture. All right. We're not talking about just the little stuff that's going on Earth now, or the big stuff that's going on. We're talking about the big picture. And the very biggest picture is that this whole game of creation needed to have a point where it would end. And we're not talking about Armageddon. We're not talking about all that stuff that we used to have in our reality that was a possibility. We've gotten past that, so that's the good news. When I say a point to end, a place where everything could come, and it's probably the 1,000 years of peace that they talk about in the Bible, that everybody could come and then get ready to start a new game, if you could call this thing we're doing a game. So the place that's going to happen is the fifth realm. Now, I'm definitely not talking about the fifth dimension. I'm talking about a place called the fifth realm. And it is an energy space that's connected with Earth, it's associated with Earth, where every being with a soul from all of the 47 universes ends up.
Okay.
When you die or when you ascend or when you reach your completion, which is going to happen about 350 years, that's where everybody will be in the fifth realm. My parents are there now. They died in 2014, in December. And I talk to them still. People do communicate with people that have passed over. And you can think of the fifth realm as heaven if that's a more convenient term for you. But they had a chance to, when Mom and Dad were there, they had a chance to experience everything there that they never experienced when they were alive.
Oh, what type of thing? What type of thing is that you can experience that you couldn't experience while you were alive?
Everything. They have it's if you want to use the word technology, it's beyond what we have here. But they could view in a nanosecond, like millions of screens that would show. For example, my mother graduating from high school, she never did. She's experienced that several different times now in the fifth realm. They were farmers. They were never wealthy, and they've rewritten their lives. They've experienced being wealthy. They've experienced, meeting at a different time and not struggling in their lives and not being part of the army is what my dad, so you get a chance to just do everything that you didn't get a chance to do when you were alive. And it's really fascinating. Of course, in creation is instant there, so it's like a big party place actually.
Okay, now
it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Is it an Earth-like type of planet or something?
No, it's an energy space. But you can create, in anything you want there. They when Dad first got there, he created another little farmhouse. But then they decided, well, that just didn't really fit what they wanted to be. So then he created a mansion that sits right next to it. I mean, it's magic. You think of magic, it's instant creation.
Okay, so you could create a mansion and have a limousine and all that stuff and enjoy being wealthy.
Right. Yes. And I think the main thing that they do now is that they focus on, they have fun still, but they focus on supporting Earth and what's happening here. At least my parents do, because of the really active role that I'm doing in assisting the Earth. And it's not just me. There's really millions of people involved in this work that I'm talking about in the Joy Chronicles. That's the name for all my books, the Joy Chronicles, because the non-dual worlds are supporting this work. They want to help us. They want to help us lift us up out of the death and the aging and the wars and hatred and those kinds of things that we've gone through.
How about global warming and Earth changes that's going on? I mean, can they help us with that?
Well, those are some of the things that we do work with the Joy Council. I brought up global warming, and I know that it's happening, but the thing is, we're creating, each of us individually and collectively are creating our reality. That's not a new concept. That's been talked about forever and ever. And I think people forget that. They get involved in, watching the news, which I advise, just do not watch the news. Turn that stuff off. They get involved in the minutiae of their lives, and it's important to them, and they forget about, hey, my thoughts today are creating what my today is going to be like. They're creating what my tomorrow is going to be like. So there are techniques in this book. There are transmissions that people can take part in energetically. They can. It's explained in the book how to move to join us on, for example, on Initiamore, and send your hopes and good wishes to the Earth, to yourself. So it's a way to lift yourself up. It's a way to help your life personally as well as the Earth, because it's our home. It's where we live.
Yeah, for a while, the way we're treating it, I don't know how much longer we're going to be here.
Well, we got to focus on the solutions. And I find myself, and just like you, maybe, I find myself looking at what's wrong. And when you focus on what's wrong, you just give more energy to what's wrong. That's why the war on terrorism makes no sense to me. You're fighting. The war on peace or the war on drugs, let's have peace, a movement for peace, or a focus on, seeing the oceans clean, or a focus on, picking up the litter on your block. It's cleaning up your part of the street. That's the responsibility that we each have.
Wow. Well, the Japanese government needs that right now, because they're talking about all that radiation from the meltdowns of the reactors. They want to dump it in the Pacific Ocean. and this dumb things that's going on in our world today. And I mean, it just seems like it gets worse every day. I mean, no logic.
Yeah, well, we have to shift our thinking, Gary. We really do. We have to start seeing the good things. I mean, the more you focus on any debts you have, or it's really a mental shift. So anybody that does any kind of energy work, Reiki or quantum healing work or shamanism or angelic healing, I've done a lot of that stuff. Those people, they're the ones that are helping make changes. People that are kinder to themselves or kinder to their neighbors, they just set an intent. Today I'm going to smile at least once to somebody. It's the minutia of lots of little things that make a difference.
Well, one thing, Joy, people, first thing they need to do, and you're at my age level pretty close, that, when I grew up, my parents, I and myself and my brother, we knew everybody that lived down the block on both sides of the street. I mean, we were friends. We were friends with them. Nowadays, people don't know their neighbors across the street or in the next apartment. People don't seem to care. Like last week, there was a lady that was hit by a bus and ran over, I should say. And a couple people kind of like glanced at her at the start. They just kind of and walked away. They didn't want to get involved. People need to get involved with other people, and they need to get back involved with themselves, because that's what's lacking.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, my kids who are in their, my older son just turned 40 and 41, and my younger 35. Even, as when they were little, we still had a really great neighborhood. And I know what you're saying, but, how do you change that? You don't start, you stop at a neighbor's house and you say, hey, I'm Joy, and I've done that myself. I made some soup, and it's just me here, so, would you like to have some soup? And, usually people will open up a little bit. See, everybody is... just describing this and making a generalization, everybody has gotten, the family situation is not what it used to be. There's a lot of splits in families and divorces and people living here and there. But one of the messages in my book that I think would be encouraging is, and the masters that I'm working with, like Osiris, who's, maybe you're familiar with any of the Egyptian, what we called them gods, but they're just non-dual beings that seem to be gods because of their abilities. He demonstrated for our council that the energy of a little toy car that we had, and then my energy and the energy of some of the other people in the room, that it was all light. It was all the same kind of energy, and that's really one of the underlying messages of the book, is that we are all one. Now we've kind of forgotten that. Some people have forgotten that. A lot of us have forgotten that, but we're all just swimming around like little particles of beef stew in a big soup.
Well, I hate to say it. People have gotten so self-centered that they don't really care about anybody but their own family. And a lot of people don't even care about their own family. But, I mean, it's bad. And what you're trying to tell me is that people have to open up first and then go into this, I think, what you're talking about. Because if you can't open up, I don't see any way you could go into, what you're talking about.
Right, yeah. Well, let's focus on the positive, because some people will open up. And that's what I think, even just reading any of these books or reading the blogs that I have on my website. I've gotten a lot of fun information there. About dragons, about fairies, about what's possible, and how people can start dreaming bigger. People do have dreams, but they're like, oh gosh, I really want to get a little bit larger check next week, or I really want to buy this new car. And those dreams are fine. They keep us motivated. But when they can see a picture of a dream of Earth with no pollution, of an Earth where some of the things that I've talked about are possible, How exciting would that be for people to be able to grasp onto that, to see an ocean